Guys, for some people, the thrill of researching companies, analyzing financial statements, and trying to predict market trends can be exciting, right? It can be challenging for some people and intellectually stimulating. But for a lot of people, guys, it's not. It's way too stressful and it causes way too much anxiety. Most people truly don't constantly want to sit there and watch stocks all day long or watch stocks for 2 or 3 hours in the morning. Most people don't want to do that. That's going to cause more fear. It's going to cause more stress and more frustration. And it can be an emotional roller coaster that a lot of people just don't want to put up with. And I'm one of them. So that's why, guys, I'm an ETF person and I'm not so big on investing in individual stocks. Now, if you love investing in individual stocks, do me a favor. Let me know in the comments below if that's what you like and enjoy doing. But you may be like me and just enjoy ETFs much better. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I like ETFs over individual stocks. And I think that ETFs offer several advantages that really makes ETFs the more preferable investment for most of us retail investors. Now, in this quick video, I'm going to give you 9 things that, in my opinion, makes ETFs superior to individual stock picking. Stay tuned for number 8, because number 8 is really the one that I think is the big kicker. I think that's the reason why ETFs are better for most people. So stick around for number 8. Now, let's just jump right into it. The very first reason that I'm an ETF person as opposed to being an individual stock person is diversification, right? ETFs typically hold a bucket of securities, could be bonds, could be stocks, whatever, which basically helps spread your risk as an investor across various companies that are in various different sectors, right? When I say sectors, I mean healthcare, technology, communication. You can get spread across all of those and you can have it all in one ETF. You're diversified, and diversification helps lower the impact of a poor performing company. And when you only invest in individual stocks, you're going to lack some of that diversity that helps mitigate risk. Unless you have 100 different stocks in many different sectors across. That's a lot of work, and we'll talk about that too. But otherwise, you can get 500 or 1,000 different stocks in one bucket called one ETF. And you got to think about this. If you have individual stocks and one of your companies performs poorly, it will have a greater impact on your overall investment portfolio than if you had 500 different companies in a bucket. So it's much easier to get that diversification across various sectors, across various asset classes and geographic regions, and across different size companies. You can get all that, and it's easier to get all that in an ETF than trying to find all of that in individual stocks. So diversification is the first reason I like ETFs over stocks. Now, the second reason is just less volatility. When you have an ETF, there's going to be a little less volatility because of that diversification that we just talked about, right? The risk is spread around. And that means overall, an ETF doesn't experience the high highs and the real low lows that an individual stock may see. And again, that means for you, less stress, less anxiety, less fear, and better health ultimately, right? With individual stocks, stock prices could be really high, and then 2 weeks later, a month later, that same stock could be really, really low. Too much volatility in the short term, because these stocks, these individual companies can be influenced by a lot of different things, guys. Economic indicators, geopolitical events that's happening around the world, something as simple as investor sentiment, right? People are emotional around individual stocks, and that can affect the performance of your individual stock. You get much less of that when you're dealing with ETFs. Trying to predict short-term price movements in an accurate way is extremely challenging, even for experienced professionals. So you can avoid those sudden price fluctuations and all that stuff when you're dealing with an ETF. So the second reason I like ETFs better than stocks is just less volatility. Now, the third reason is just lower cost. Investing in an ETF oftentimes means lower cost as compared to buying multiple individual stocks. ETFs typically have low expense ratios, meaning the cost and the fees associated with the ETF are usually very low, and you can avoid some of the brokerage fees that are usually associated with buying and selling individual stocks. Buying and selling individual stocks also has transaction fees, right? And all of these fees, they eat into your investment, right? They eat into the amount of money that you actually make when those fees are higher, especially if you're doing something like day trading or doing a lot of individual stock trading. Those fees can add up quickly. So that's the third reason that I'm an ETF person. Guys, if you get value from this video, please smash the like button below. And please consider subscribing to this channel if you're not already a subscriber. And also, don't forget to share this video with your friends and your family. Now, let's go to number 4. The fourth reason that I like ETFs is liquidity. ETFs trade on stock exchanges just like individual stocks. Regular investors like me and you, retail investors, we can buy and sell shares of ETFs throughout the trading day on the market. So the liquidity that you see with individual stocks is the same exact liquidity that you see with ETFs, except ETFs, they have all these other perks and advantages that I'm laying out right here. Now, number 5 is accessibility. ETFs give you a wide range of asset classes, of different sectors and various markets: bond market, stock market, equities, commodities, right? Specialty ETFs, socially conscious and socially aware ETFs. Some of those are hard to access unless you access them through an ETF. And it allows regular retail investors, like most of us out here, to easily diversify our portfolios and gain exposure to all of the other stuff that's out there in an inexpensive way through ETFs. Now, the 6th reason I'm an ETF person is simply transparency. Look, ETFs typically disclose all of their holdings or the companies that they have in their bucket regularly. They don't withhold that information. You know and have access to the information about what you're investing in inside of the bucket called an ETF. No secrets. So this transparency for us regular investors provides us with a level of clarity, right? An understanding of what we're actually investing our money in. And that helps us make better informed decisions about our investments. So just like you have companies, individual companies that have to report their earnings using 10Qs and 10Ks and profit loss statements and all that good stuff and having the shareholder meetings and all that, you have similar transparency when it comes to ETFs. Now, number 7 is flexibility. As I said before, ETFs can be traded on the stock exchange just like regular individual stocks, traded throughout the day. Their price fluctuates throughout the day, but they can be traded and sold just like regular individual stocks. So that means, guys, you can implement all of the different type of strategies that you like to do or can do or learn to do with individual stocks. You can do all that stuff with ETFs, right? You can buy margins, you can short sell, or you can use options. You can do all that with an ETF, just like a stock. But at the same time, you still have all that diversification and that less risk and less volatility that you'll get with an ETF that you just don't get with individual stocks. Now, I asked you to stick around for number 8 because number 8 is probably the number 1 reason most people should probably be investing in ETFs as opposed to individual stocks. Number 8 is simply this: it takes less time to research ETFs than it does individual companies to invest in. So instead of researching the 10Ks and the 10Qs and the profit loss statements and the earning statements and listening to or reading the transcript from the shareholder meeting where the CEO addressed everybody and gave you the direction of the company, you don't have to do any of that when it comes to ETFs. If you want to invest in an individual stock, you have to spend that time researching that stock. Now, a lot of people don't do it that way, and they're investing in individual stocks wrong. You probably shouldn't be out there investing in individual stocks by simply reading an article or hearing somebody that you know talk about a stock. You should be doing all of that research when you invest in an individual stock, because you're investing in a company and you want to know as much about that company as possible. But with an ETF, you don't have to spend that significant amount of time doing your research. Look, if you're investing in an individual stock, you have to analyze trends, assess a company's fundamentals through those documents I mentioned earlier, stay up to date on market news, company news, CEO news, the direction of the company, the fixed assets, the cash. You should know all that about a company before you invest in them. This can be a daunting task for most people. Most retail investors like me and you, we ain't got time for all that. But when you invest in ETFs, you're researching the sector, the tracking errors, the fees and costs that are associated with owning the ETF, some past performance of the ETF, and of course, what does the ETF hold? What's in the bucket of stocks, right? You're doing that research for hundreds of companies that sit in that bucket, not for each individual company. So with ETFs, you save time, you save energy, and your level of knowledge doesn't have to be so in-depth. Now, I'm not saying you just don't research when you buy ETFs. I'm saying you're going to research less, and that is helpful for all of us. Now, the 9th reason is pretty important too. The 9th reason that I'm an ETF person over an individual stock person is because of less psychological biases when we're talking about investing in ETFs. In other words, guys, ETFs, they don't bring out the emotions and some of the gamesmanship that you see with investing in individual stocks. With individual stocks, you're going to see people that are overconfident. You're going to see people that are overly salesy. And you're also going to see a lot of herd mentality, right? This stock is going down. Oh my gosh, we got to get out of there. This stock is going up. Oh my gosh, we got to go ahead and invest. A lot of herd mentality when people are selecting individual stocks to invest in. And that's the type of stuff that makes people emotional and sort of clouds people's sound judgment when they're investing in individual stocks. It can lead to really irrational decisions, right? You see people chasing hot stocks or selling during a downturn when they should be buying and basically panicking. But you don't really see that in the world of ETF investing because there's a level of stability in ETF investing and a certain sense of less risk, a little more feeling of more security. Now, don't get me wrong, there's risk when you invest in ETFs, right? But not so much as when you're investing in individual stocks. And so the psychology and the hyperactivity around the individual stock picking world is just not there in the ETF world. And that makes ETFs, in my opinion, a calmer and more rational and reasonable choice over individual stocks. So while ETFs offer all of these advantages and pros that I talked about, it's still really, really essential that you consider your investment goals. Like, what do you really want to get out of investing, right? What's your end goal? And also you consider your risk tolerance. Do you want to risk a lot? Do you want to risk a little? And also you want to consider your age and when do you need the money that you're investing? You got to do all those things before deciding if an ETF in your portfolio or a portfolio full of ETFs is something that you want to have. You might just want to have a portfolio that includes ETFs and includes individual stocks. Your choice. But these are my 9 reasons why I'm an ETF person over an individual stock person. It's just way too easy to choose underperforming stocks. Because a lot of times, guys, when you hear of a great hot stock pick, it's already too late, right? And without the proper research and the proper analysis, a regular retail investor like me and you can easily end up choosing an underperforming stock. Hey, even seasoned investors struggle to beat the market with individual stock picking. Listen, ultimately, whether picking individual stocks is fun for you depends on your own personal preferences. If you have the time, if you have the risk tolerance, if you have the know-how and the knowledge, and you really enjoy the process of picking individual stocks and you find it rewarding, then hey, go for it. But if you think it causes you more stress, more anxiety, more panic, then just know there's plenty of other investment options out there. ETFs is one. Now, if you want to know my top 3 picks for the top 3 ETFs that I think most people should be investing in, check out this video right here. And if you want to know my 2 favorite types of ETFs, check out this video right here. Peace.